core that cannot be explained away in conventional terms. Defy, after exhaustive research. I mean, Nick Pope talks about it at the MOD. He investigated it because it took place in England. He said there were radiation readings at the landing site.
Do these, the crafts that happen at the base, do they have photograph of these things?
Well, Jim Pendleton says that he took photographs, and then they said the photographs didn't come out. That's what they told him.
So he took photographs to get developed, and then when they developed them, they said
that's what they said to him. Yes.
Yeah. So most likely they just said.
So then, one of the things that Colonel Charles Halt said, that the deputy base commander, is that a plane came in, and there was some unknown government U.S. agency. I know you guys are probably thinking I'm crazy now, but don't take it from me. I'm just telling you what they told me.
Okay.
Okay. That they came in and kind of sanitized the whole case. But that's a very good case, and it's one of the top cases that is extremely. It's been investigated in England. It's been investigated in the United States, and a lot of the witnesses have come forward on the record.
So it's quite possible that somewhere in some archive this photo exists, or some photos exist.
Okay.
But here's the question: if the government keeps coming out and telling us that, you know, we may begin to face threats from outside of this world, if they're telling us that, you know, like when they're discussing these things, that they behave in a way that we can't describe, and no propulsion systems that we know of, if they're telling us all this, why wouldn't they release all that other stuff too? Why wouldn't they release those photographs?
What's in it for them?
Well, what's in it for them to tell us about it in the first place?
Well, they're not.
But what's in it for them to even admit? I mean, just the way they're addressing it now.
People think that there was a sudden epiphany with the U.S. government that they wanted to be more transparent, and they wanted the general public to know more about this phenomenon.
Right.
That is not what happened. What happened is a couple of insiders in December of 2017 walked some evidence out of ATIP, found a loophole, and put it on the front page of the New York Times. Now
so it was leakers who did that?
Hell yeah, it was leakers
Really?
that did that. Yes, it was Christopher Mellon.
Okay.
I actually got a phone call when the film was coming out, and I got a phone call from Leslie Kane, and she goes, "Christopher Mellon told you that he was the one that walked the footage out of the Pentagon?" I said, "Yeah, it's on camera."
Well, Christopher Mellon...
She goes, "I can't believe that. He didn't even want that in the New York Times. Like, how, you know," I said, "I don't know. He just said it." And that's what happened. It wasn't like suddenly the government had this epiphany. So now they can't put the genie back in the bottle. Now you got the David Fravors, right? David Fravors' encounter is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got photographic evidence. That tic-tac. I was investigating a landing case in Socorro, New Mexico. It was April 24th, 1964. So I spent 5 years on this case. It was the case that turned around Dr. Jalen Hynek. Dr. Jalen Hynek investigated UFO reports for the United States Air Force as a scientific advisor from 47 to 69. He's the one that coined all the term close encounter of the first kind, close encounter of the second kind, the close encounter of the third kind. Okay? Close encounter of the first kind is when you see a UFO at close range. Close encounter of the second time, you see a UFO and somehow it interacts with the environment, whether like Richard Dreyfuss' face got burnt, or it leaves marks on the ground, or it burns trees, or whatever. The propulsion affects something. Close encounter of the third kind, and this is coming out of Air Force Project Blue Book's own files. This is not me saying this. Close encounter of the third kind is when beings are reported by the witnesses. So beings are associated with the craft are reported. One of the best, most well-documented cases in U.S. history took place at Socorro, New Mexico, April 24th, 1964, at 5 o'clock with a police officer that was on duty by the name of Lonnie Zamora. The best case in U.S. history. The best documented case. The first military officer to arrive on the scene got there, the bushes were still smoking. I mean, the imprints in the ground of the craft, the footprints, they got diagrams of this stuff. And I spent 5 years going back and forth to Socorro, New Mexico. I got to know the wife, Mary. I got to know the daughter, Diane, the son, Michael, his co-workers. I went to the National Archives with Ray Stanford. He wrote the book on it, Socorro Saucer in a Pentagon Pantry. Phenomenal case. And what I learned was that the Air Force, according to his own family, Lonnie Zamora's family, told his daughter this. I have this on camera. The Air Force wanted him desperately not to talk about the beans. They discouraged him to talk about the beans, and I tell you why. it's one thing when you see an object, unknown object like David Fravor saw up in the sky, exhibiting a technology that seems to defy conventional propulsion. And it's another thing altogether when you've got beings on the ground. Well, the Air Force didn't want him talking about that, and that was one thing that his daughter and his wife told me clearly. And his wife said, Lonnie was never the same after that case. But
so what did Lonnie see?
Lonnie saw two beings at the base of an egg-shaped craft that was landed in an arroyo in Socorro, New Mexico in broad daylight. Lonnie looked out the window of his patrol car. He saw something that caught his eye, and then this object landed. He drove. He was actually in hot pursuit at the time. He gave up pursuit to go investigate what was going on, and he sees this object in the arroyo in the desert on the ground. It's such a well-documented case. And he rolls down his car window, and he's looking out, and he's going, am I looking at like an overturned car? What the hell am I looking at? And then he sees two little figures. He said they were childlike at the base of the craft, and one of them locked eyes with him. And his wife said he was never the same after that. But
how did he describe them? What they
he
look
said
like?
they were small, childlike. It's small, and they had white coveralls, tight coveralls. This is a close encounter of the third kind.
What did they say their faces look like?
He didn't give a lot of detail. So I went to Lonnie's house. I got to know his wife quite well. Lonnie had passed a couple of years prior to that, and I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go in this case, because we could talk on this case for 3 hours, but whatever. I could tell you that I got access to, he had this black duffel bag, and it was with his wife's permission. He had kept all the original newsprints from like the articles that had come out, and that's where I got the details. And he also talked about it in some recordings that I got from his family and other researchers. It's in the movie, The Phenomenon. And that's where I got the primary description, because it was Richard T. Holder was the first military officer on the scene. The FBI got involved later, and
how long was that thing sitting out there for?
The object was sitting on the ground, not for very long, just a few minutes. Lonnie saw the beings, and he went like around to get a closer look. I mean, he was like, "What the hell am I looking at?" And he drove his car around to get a closer look, and he lost contact with it for a second while he drove around to get a closer look. Now he's within 50 feet of this egg thing sitting on the ground. And he gets out of the patrol car. It starts making some weird noise, and it has a blue flame that comes out. And he said it was not like a rocket flame where it would hit the ground and dust everything up, but it pierced the ground like a knife through warm butter. And when it got about 20 feet off the ground, it went completely silent with no flame, no nothing. You can hear a pin drop. And there was a symbol on the side of the craft. It was in yellow, and it was about 3 feet tall, and it was like a V like this, 2 lines and a line on top. And
let's get a photo of that symbol that he recreated.
Yeah, you'll see fake symbols, because Richard T. Holder asked him to draw a different symbol. I actually have the original symbol. On a document from Dr. Hynek.
Why did someone ask him to draw a fake symbol?
Because he said that if anybody else claimed to see the same craft with that symbol, they would immediately be able to identify a hoaxer.
Oh, so which was the real one?
The real one is that one right there with the 2 lines in that upside down V right there. That's the real one.
That's the real one.
Yeah, and I've got the document in Dr. Jalen Hynek's own handwriting. Ray Stanford and I went to the National Archives and found it. It was a huge find.
So they did that on purpose, just in case some copycat people started coming up with it.
He did. Richard T. Holder, and I met Richard T. Holder's 2 kids and talked to them about it. I talked to his wife about it, and they said, yeah, he was told that's not the genuine. That's the one right there that you're looking at. That's the real one. No question. So anyway, my point is...
he drew... Is that his handwritten note over there that shows it?
Yeah, that's definitely. I actually found the original one of those. That's it. That's the document that I found with Ray Stanford at the National Archives in 2013. This is in Dr. Hynek's own handwriting. Enclosed suggests any resemblance to and he draws the symbol of Socorro. Maybe yeah. I mean, it was kind of a genius move, quite honestly.
So this was the case that turned J. Allen Hynek?
So what happened was, Jacques Vallée was it right?
So that's what it looked like? Similar? So similar to a Tic Tac.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. But when it got to about 20 feet off the ground, it went completely silent. No blue flame, nothing. The landing gear was retracted. It was just an egg. And it floated off in the distance. In fact, Lonnie, I've got an interview with Lonnie where he says that one of the officers who arrived on the scene actually saw it fly off in the distance, and it was witnessed by other people in the town that saw this thing flying.
Didn't the Tic Tac, the people who saw the Tic Tac, including Commander Fravor, didn't he say that there was some sort of thing that almost looked like landing gear?
No, there was something that protruded out in the front of it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But apparently the video, I think it was according to Fravor, the video is the one that's been out is the resolution is a lot worse than what other people had seen at the time. I remember, I think, pretty sure David Fravor said that to me.
So
but
go ahead.
well, yeah, so I just recently went. I'm filming a new doc, and I went to Washington D.C. for a month to get kind of caught up on what's been happening, because a lot's been happening while I'm doing Moment of Contact. There's an unprecedented effort in Washington D.C. to push for further government transparency. Marco Rubio, Senator Gillibrand, Representative Andre Carson, who got the congressional hearings that happened last year, Representative Gallego and Gallagher, all been involved, and others. And so I got introduced some intelligence folks on the inside, and they wanted me to read this to your audience, okay?
Okay.
And this is about evidence.
Okay.
So, and this was in pretty much a reaction to the latest hearing that happened with Gillibrand just a couple of days ago or last week. I will remain anonymous, but I've been monitoring the UFO, and I met this guy. I know this guy. This guy's legit. The UFO, UAP activity, and the authorities' response to them. I can assure you there's a lot more evidence behind the curtain that hasn't been released. First, our military are and have been seeing remarkable things in the sky, in the oceans, and on the land for years. Of those reported, where does all this information get stored? Authorities would have you believe that this data is destroyed, but unique data is stored somewhere to be reviewed later. And as someone that has seen the classified holdings, I am very disappointed in the fact that Dr. Kirkpatrick showed some of the most mundane videos to the public. I do understand that there are security factors to be considered, so I'm hoping that Senator Gillibrand saw something much more interesting in her closed-door hearing with Kirkpatrick. And why did only 2 senators show up for the hearing? Have they lost faith in Kirkpatrick already? I applaud Senator Gillibrand's efforts to find the truth, but I am more sure than ever that Kirkpatrick is not the one.
Interesting. So he's withholding some information.
Yeah, these people went on camera for me. It's going to be released when the time is right. But I've got,
Again, it's one of those things conveniently, like Lucy pulling the ball away from Charlie Brown.
It's
right when you get close.
It's so frustrating.
I can only imagine.
So frustrating.
Christopher Mellon said that there's very high resolution photographs.
So he now has he just met with me in D.C. and he's now told me that there is satellite data, and the only reason why he talked about it is because Ratcliffe mentioned it. So he's like, well, Ratcliffe mentioned it, so I'll mention the fact that Ratcliffe mentioned it. It's satellite data. And I was like, oh, how good are the photographs? I want to know so bad. You know me. Like, come on, I've been looking at this for 30 years.
Yeah.
How good are the photographs? He goes, James, 4K, just think about as good as you can imagine of craft. And to know that, and I spoke to 5 other people that are part of the program or had the top secret the clearances to access to this, and they all confirmed. And it's like they're just on the other side of that curtain. Could somebody just get those out here, please? Please.
Do you think we're closer than ever to those things being leaked?
I think that if we keep the pressure on, I think it's very important. One of the things that concerns me a little bit is that sometimes they could leak something that looks amazing, right? And then you put your fingerprints all over it and you send it out into the ether, and then it's gets debunked.
Right.
So you got to be kind of careful if you don't know provenance. And
so I would imagine they would do stuff like that on purpose.
Oh, and these guys are so smart.
Certainly.
They're like 5 steps ahead of us, So, but I know what I know, not because I read it out of a book, but I actually went into the field. I mean, I travel. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was interviewing generals and cosmonauts in Russia back in the late 90s. I went to China. I went to Australia. I went to Africa. I went to Russia, as I was just saying, all across Europe. I really want to know. Like, I'm so curious, and I like to go to location. I could give you an example. I found out in China just a couple of years ago, there's a case that happened in 1994, the same time as Rua, called Mengjiaogua in the Black Forest of China. And these guys, in the middle of nowhere, relayed the same telepathic message that the children received in Rua, Zimbabwe in 1994 at Ariel School. And by the way, I did include a piece of that in the film that I did with the girls. I don't know, it's only like 10 minutes long. Quite fascinating. That's a damn good case. That's in one of the 10% cases that I talk about. But there's a film out now, I think it's called Aerial Phenomenon. And it's all just about that case. But those are the... Should we get back to like to 45 and work my way up? Or do you want to talk a little bit about moment of contact?
We can
Because moment of contact is the case that could settle this debate once and for all. Or...
Let's tease people for a bit with moment of contact.
Okay.
Because it is an amazing documentary.
I won't go
you really
into
nailed
details.
it.
I won't go into any details. I'll just say this. I put my reputation on the line for this. I get it. It sounds so spectacular. It sounds so unbelievable.
But when you watch the documentary, it sounds less spectacular. Well, similarly spectacular,
Yes.
but more believable.
So here's the point.
Okay.
It's either the most elaborate, complex hoax that involves half the town of Virginia. I think there's like 130,000 people living there. I mean, I go down to the town square and just start talking to people. I did it in the movie. And everybody's got a little piece of the puzzle. Most people have a piece of the puzzle. It's phenomenal. Or a UFO crashed, live aliens were recovered, and the Americans, it was captured by the Brazilian authorities, and the Americans stepped in and flew some of that back to the United States. And that's when the case goes cold. There's no in between.
That's definitely the sexiest version.
There's no
Right?
there's no in between. But you
Speaking of sexiest versions, this is I was looking up the thing in '94 in China and
Oh, yeah.
stumbled across this.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The most bizarre contact in China occurred in June 7, 1994 when, how do you say his name?
Meng Jiaogua.
Meng Jiaogua of Phoenix Mountain, how do you say that? Fujian province met a female alien. First, there was electricity between them. Then things got amorous. According to Meng, the female alien looked like a white monster. She was very tall, about 2.5 meters, and wore tight clothes with only her big eyes and private parts exposed. She did something to him that felt like an electric shock, and he passed out. When he came round, he found several scars on his body. According to Wu, she planted something mung bean sized into his body. Things were about to get even stranger. Meng had sexual intercourse with the female alien. She suddenly fell down on him. He could hardly move. His penis felt hot, then ached. The experience was more pleasurable than anything he had ever felt. That's him?
Yeah, and then they gave him a lie detector test.
And he passed it?
It doesn't.
I did
lot of
not
people
hear about
pass
that
those.
aspect of the encounter.
A
I
lot
heard
of people
about
pass those, especially crazy
too.
people.
Yeah. I did not hear about that aspect of it. But I didn't go. But my point is...
That dude was banging aliens.
Yeah.
Respect.
Respect.
It takes a lot of courage. But I was very attracted to the Avatar lady, the big blue one that saves him. She's hot.
Yes.
So
Yes.
She's hot.
we'll go back here. Let's go.
I think she's hot.
Let's go back because
I'd fucking switch right over to that. girl.
I am...
That human beings are the product of genetic engineering.
I do, yes.
You do. So you think that they took some lower hominids and that they did something to them to create human beings. That is a very popular theory among UFO fanatics. I should say fans, devotees.
I don't want to speak again for my company, but one of the people on our board, they call it a SAB, Scientific Advisory Board, is a lead geneticist from Stanford who I think he was up for the Nobel this year.
What's his name?
Dr. Gary Nolan, and he would be the guy to ask about that.
Get him in here.
But he's only going to tell you what he can prove with science. He's not going to speculate.
Right.
You know?
So what makes people think that? Like, what's the science that makes people think that?
Well, there's a lot of junk DNA. There's certain parts of our DNA that seems to have been turned off. There's a bunch of things in there that we don't understand, and we don't have the leaps of humanity over the past 5,000 years to really show like what happened in the past 5,000 years that wasn't happening for the hundreds of millions of years before that. They just found a footprint that was like 100 million years old or something like that. That was just a human footprint.
What?
They did, yeah. I just read
Where'd
the
they
news
find
story.
that?
I don't know. I can't remember, but it's like a fossil. And now they're like, fuck, this totally throws everything upside
Have you
down.
been talking to Sarah Palin? That was something that Sarah Palin said. Remember that? Like there was a librarian that said that she didn't believe that she was a young Earth creationist, and she thought that there was a picture online that showed a human footprint inside a dinosaur footprint that it proved that people walked with dinosaurs.
I wouldn't doubt it. I
wouldn't
think,
doubt that people walked with
oh,
dinosaurs?
not at all. I think there's been cycles of civilizations, and I think the people on the inside know that, and that's why at that defense contractor, multi-billion-dollar defense the ones that chose the government of Iraq after we took over Iraq, and the ones that looked after all of our nukes.
Hey, look at there, human footprint inside a dinosaur footprint. She's right.
But they have, at that place. Remember, I told you they have the past and the future with big pyramids in their hands,
right.
tetrahedrons. You know that they're trying. It's like. It's spooky when you look at that. And
Do you
think about
believe that the asteroid hit the Yucatan and caused a mass extinction that killed off most of the life on the planet?
I don't know. I can't believe it. I don't know. Fuck, I've never studied that shit, and I wasn't there.
But I mean, there's like physical evidence for that.
It's more like, well, yeah, but I haven't read anything about it. But sure,
Okay.
I can believe in things. I can't prove a lot of things, you know.
Right, but that's like the whole reason why we're supposedly here, that it killed off the dinosaurs and allowed whatever they think there was some sort of a mole type creature that evolved over 65 million years to become
That's
us.
all bullshit. I think that's all bullshit. I think
Do you think evolution's bullshit?
no. I think that at some point in history, someone came here and tampered with existing creatures and made us and upgraded us at very specific intervals.
But who tampered with them? And what came
don't
first,
know.
the chicken or the egg? You know
That's
what
a
I'm
good
saying?
question. Yeah, I don't know.
A single-celled organism, we all kind of agree, like that was like the beginning, right? Most scientists, not we, I'm too stupid for this, but obviously somehow or another that became a bird, right? Why couldn't it become a monkey? Why couldn't that monkey become a person?
I think I don't know. I mean, look, evolution changes. I mean, we know that people that like beat their kids' DNA changes based on getting beat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when you were fighting, you were changing people's DNA, and you were a geneticist, you know? You went after it for science, you know? That's why
Right.
you were doing the fighting, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a
With a
science.
lab coat on. So
Yeah.
if you think about it that way, if you think about that all life somehow or another continues to evolve and advance, and through natural selection, genetic mutation, and random mutations, that things move from one stage of existence to what they are today, right? That when you look at, you know, a condor or a hippopotamus,
Sure.
that it used to be something different and now it's that.
Sure.
Why wouldn't that be the case with people too?
I think that is the case with people. I just think that the quantum leaps in our evolution are symptoms or effects of being genetically upgraded.
The way I've heard it explained to me, though, is that the only leap that's really confusing is the doubling of the human brain.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
don't know.
big leap, and it's over the period of 2 million years. Apparently, obviously, I'm too stupid to really understand this, but from what I've read and what I've heard people talk about, that's apparently one of the biggest mysteries when it comes to the human fossil record. But there's a pretty clear line, apparently, from Australopithecus to the Homo
Don't be using
sapiens.
big words on me.
Australopithecus is not a big word. You were
Sounds
using,
like it.
What the fuck is that stuff again?
Penis? Uranus?
Yeah.
Whatever that's called. 115, element 115.
That stuff.
Oh, no, that stuff. Yeah.
So what is your company aiming to do, and when are you trying to do it?
So the next steps. So To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science.
Why is it an academy?
Because
teaching people?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's teaching, there's science, there's arts major. There's film franchises. So what this
Don't
is?
say musicals. No musicals, right?
It's only musicals. Apparently, I'm sorry.
UFO
Yeah.
musicals. It's like everything's cool, but it's
Yeah.
a really stupid art form.
Oh,
Shit.
It's a musical, but it's very salacious. Very,
Okay.
very sexual musicals. But okay, so what we did essentially is you have a senior engineer, chief engineer from the classified aerospace world building shit. And then you have a guy like me that's putting out some stories and making some movies about some things. And then you have my physicists.
So, can I stop you there? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
why stories and why fiction? Like, why not
There's
just...
going to be both. There's going to be both.
But why fiction? Why not just concentrate entirely on revealing the truth?
Because it has to be managed in a certain way for people to understand. And I think that someone sitting down and watching a debate play out and having an idea of what went on over the past 70 years, they'll come out of that with an emotional response and more of an understanding, and then want to go watch the documentary, and then want to buy some of the nonfiction works that we've done. I've already put out one of our nonfiction books with Secret Machines.
Now, that movie, what is it, Arrival?
Yeah.
Was that the movie? Where there's like sort of weird time shit in that movie?
Yeah.
Does that movie have any basis in reality?
No.
Was there secret people behind the scenes?
No, I don't think so. But there's nothing in there that's familiar to me other than the fact that the dream sequences and the time stuff and her having flashes of that shit's absolutely on par. And the idea of having an international group work together to figure something out, that's absolutely on par.
That's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's keeping their mouth shut.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Why are they doing that? Why aren't people spilling the beans?
Well, it's not look at Lou Elizondo, the guy that works for me that just came from the Pentagon, literally quit the Pentagon 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you where I'm at, but
a lot of can't tell you.
I know,
man.
I'm sorry, but he's with me, and he was on stage with me on the live event we did on the 11th, saying, I left the Pentagon days ago. I ran this particular UFO program, and this is what we know, and they are real, and we're going to continue that program here at To the Stars.
Now, but your goal is to release this information through documentaries, through films, and to educate people of the existence of this. And is it to make a ship?
Well, no. So this is, once again, look, by putting together, you can't attack this subject by just like, if you make a movie, someone, that's a crazy movie. If you make a science paper on it, then no one's going to read it. And the technology will never see the light of day because it's been modified as weaponry or whatever it is. That the only way to get people to understand what the fuck is going on is by first present them the story so they have an understanding that it is real and it is happening, and lay it in a way that's grounded and practical and but still moves you, and then follow up with the science, and then show them that thing you're watching in the movie can be engineered and created. So we are doing it all together. But there's a thing called a community of interest. So To the Stars is also building a portal with the Department of Defense to share information, to educate people, to put some now declassified videos of UFOs, some science, some documents, and have open forums, and have current military people talk to young adults.
So you're going to expose people to this narrative and explain to them through stories what this could be. That sets the stage. Then you start to introduce the actual real elements that actually exist.
Yep.
And then eventually what? What's the end game?
Well, the end game is the technology itself is like, so when you make when you create this energy source that powers the spacecraft, it's called an over-unity machine. So it puts out more power than what's put into it. You can desalinate ocean water with it. You can get rid of atomic power, so there's no more Fukushimas. It can do a lot of different things, but it also will rapidly transform our entire transportation and communication network. So the end result with that is that'll get spun out into a company that's probably partners with major aerospace organizations, with whom I'm already talking. And we partner on that.
Let me guess, you can't tell me who they are.
No, fuck no, I can't tell you. And we bring that out to the world. But the only way that can be brought out to the world is if the public owns it and we build it from scratch.
Why the public? Why does the public have to own it?
Because, well, I guess it could be in a way a private person, but the technology probably has an element of what they call eminent domain. So we're going to get to a certain point where certain agencies will probably knock on our door and go, what the fuck are you doing? And we're going to say, the public owns this. You can't take it from them. And they're going to say, fuck yeah, we can take it. And we're going to say, we're going to work something out. Because it's like building a nuclear bomb in your basement kind of thing. So
when you say the public owns it, like how will that be possible? How will the public own it?
You can go to we reserved a small amount of shares of the company that people can buy stock in the company right now. So a year ago,
but that's not the public. That's private. It's still private ownership, right? If people buy it, the company can go public. But
it is public. So a year and a half ago, maybe 24 months ago, the SEC wanted to democratize going public with companies, just like an IPO, but not have to spend millions of dollars and do it. So they launched what's called a Regulation A, direct public offering. And we had to file with the SEC. So we had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. And we spent the last 6 months doing it. And our live event launched that. So you can go to
And you did this just so that you can tell whoever the fuck it is that will come after you that, hey, the public owns this, you can't take this.
That's one element of everything that we're doing. Yeah.
So you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to anticipate someone coming in and closing the doors, and yet you're talking about it in advance.
You're
essentially telling
strategizing
them that but you're letting them know that they're going to come and get it.
It's going to be much harder to shut it down when the whole world has paid for it, invested in it, owns it, And
So you're trying to get people to buy things.
I'm trying. What do you mean?
You're trying to get people to buy stock.
Well, yeah. Right now we're public. You can buy shares of the company. We only put up a very limited amount though. I think we only put up 5 million shares or something.
So that seems like a lot of shares. How many shares are there all
there's
told?
there's like 100 million probably or something like that.
How does shares work?
Shares, like you
How does
just
that work? Like say if we came up with Young Jamie Incorporated.
Yeah.
And we wanted to start selling shares.
when you file as a corporation, you can issue shares and you can sell those shares to people, and those shares have a price based on how you want to value your company.
Okay. So you could have like 100 million shares of Young Jamie Incorporated?
Yep. You sure can.
Okay. And so then the government can't shut you down, bro.
Nah. Well, you guys maybe because you say a lot of bad words.
No. Jamie doesn't.
But
He's Mormon.
we do a lot at the company, right? So we're building essentially a science fiction version of Disney. Okay, so we have 4 film franchises. Not all of them are about UFOs. One is kind of this Blade Runner all about nightmares kind of thing. One is like an old Amblin Spielberg movie.
Who's making these things?
Oh, we are.
I mean, who's writing them?
I wrote the first one. I'm directing that.
You're directing too?
I wrote this script.
Look at you multi-talented motherfucker.
Well, look, that's where I'm going with most of this stuff. But the company, I had to get up and get going and set it up, and we bring in a CEO and all that kind of shit.
That's a bizarre formula, right? An entertainment company that's also gonna
do aerospace and science. And the heart of it is when we do what's called confirmation, not disclosure, confirmation. The heart of it is how do we tell stories that galvanize the human race and let them know a little bit more about what's going on, and how do we present them science so they understand that consciousness and a lot of other things are real, and how do we build a technology associated with those stories and with those science that can change the world. And that's why it's an academy.
Do they have any pickled bodies anywhere? Like any formaldehyde?
I believe they do.
Dipped?
Yeah.
You believe they do? Nobody's ever told you that?
I believe
it's just a guess?
I believe they do.
You believe they do? You can't say any more than that?
I'm not going to say any more than that.
You said so much.
I know.
It's so
I know.
weird what you can and can't say.
Well, I could tell you other shit offline, probably.
Okay, offline. I can't wait to end this podcast. I
Yeah,
can find out the real
don't
deal.
Kick me out.
I won't tell anybody.
Tell you some weird shit.
What we do know about UFOs, the one fucking thing we know for sure about UFOs is that they're high energy in a small amount of space. This is classically, it's been documented, the radiation effects of these when they're around. So the injuries people get, you've heard like the sunburns on one side of their face and shit, the radiation, the hair falling
So
out.
that's like from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
But that's from life.
But they've actually really had that sunburn on
That's
one
how
side
they made the movie so interesting, was that they took all the cases, the trace cases, the physical cases. That shit happens to people, and sometimes when they have close proximity to a UFO, they get fucked up.
Right.
It's unintentional is what people think. It's like the propulsion system itself or something.
Well, Travis Walker.
Walton, yeah.
Travis Walton, rather. That was his story, was that they brought him aboard the UFO to repair him.
Yeah. I wonder if that's the way he likes to look at it, or if that's what happened. I don't know.
Did they ever do a study on his brain?
I don't know.
They should, right? I mean, if that guy's telling the truth, or maybe it would be repaired. Because they took him aboard the craft and supposedly did some medical procedure to him.
I mean, look, we should study this stuff. I think that's the big takeaway of this moment in our history, because we're repeating history. The UFOs have had this huge wave before, and Congress was interested 50 years ago. Multi-nations were studying it openly. Now we're back at this point where I feel like there's an opportunity just to be open. We should study this scientifically, man.
The problem is, I feel like even though there's people that have sightings, and even though there's some kind of metallurgy evidence, there's so little stuff. It's not like if I want to study sea turtles, I can go find the sea turtles and go study them. This is it's too hard to grasp. There's nothing there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can't replicate it upon demand, which is what science requires, right?
Yes.
There are some cool thoughts on how to do that. There have been attempts to lure in UFOs with nuclear weapons.
Really?
Yes.
There have been attempts to like fake that we're going to
Bait them.
use bait them.
Bait them.
Really?
Yes.
How do you know this?
Well, we'll talk about how I know that later, but it is
You
true.
can't say how you know it?
No, it's not. Some of the people I talk with have told me about these.
Right.
So people I trust that are in a position to know.
And have they told you can't talk about this?
Yeah,
or
like
you can't
the
divulge
basic
your sources?
Yeah, there we go. The basics is 14 out of 14 times or something. I might be getting that number wrong. That there was a way to bait every single time these UFOs would come in when they were transporting nuclear weapons or something like that. Now, if that information is true, then you would have a method. You would have a way to study this.
Right.
See, I think we're reinventing the wheel so much. Like Avi Loeb at Harvard, and NASA just. I think this is true. NASA just announced they're going to repurpose their satellites to look for UFOs. I think that's a real article, Jamie. If you can find that,
repurpose their satellites.
That's my
to look
word,
for UFOs.
repurpose. But yeah, NASA made an announcement that they're going to kind of repurpose their satellites.
Look at that.
To look for. Is that
NASA
correct?
wants to turn satellites into alien hunters.
There we go.
That's just from a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
Wow.
It's
Click
not.
on
My
that.
memory's been so bad.
No,
it's nice
you're dead on,
yeah.
brother. Look at that.
Yeah.
NASA is looking to repurpose satellites. You said it perfectly.
Okay.
This is fucking crazy. Asked why the space agency is embarking on such a seemingly fringe subject, it said one of its remits is to look for life outside of Earth. Fascinating. Okay, so last month, the U.S. Space Agency announced it was launching an 8-month inquiry into investigate hundreds of unexplained UFO sightings. The inquiry is being held by Dr. Thomas. What's with all these names? Zurbuchen? How do you say that? What do you think?
Zerbuchin.
Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, who has been investigating whether satellites in space could be repurposed to give another view on strange aerial phenomena reported from Earth. Speaking to journalists in London this week, Colonel Pam Melroy, the deputy administrator of NASA, said the team is going to be looking at questions like, do we have sensors that can see things? Take another look at the evidence. One of the big questions that Thomas asked is, we have a ton of satellites looking down at Earth. Are any of them useful? I mean, before you build a rover that's going to Mars, you ask yourself, what's a sensor I have to build to detect the most interesting things? So they're really going to focus on that. Wow. Well, scroll up there. How would you get the evidence you need to be able to determine if it's an optical phenomena or some other kind of phenomena? Even the greatest scientists were ridiculed. Bill Nelson, a NASA administrator, told journalists that he had read all the classified documents relating to UFOs and was convinced that nobody knew what they were. Questioned as to why NASA was embarking on such a seemingly fringe subject, Nelson said that one of the space agency's remits was to hunt for life outside of Earth, and that in the past, even the greatest scientists have been disbelieved and ridiculed. Remember that one of our missions is to reach out to see if there is life, he said. That's why we're digging on Mars right now. Is the possibility of life in something as big as the universe? Of course, there's a chance in somewhere as big as that, conditions similar to Earth existed, and some other kind of life form developed.
Great grandkids, long after you're gone, you can talk to them because all your thoughts, your feelings, your history, your dreams have been recorded, and you can impart your knowledge, your wisdom to your great-great-great-great-great-grandkids long after you're gone. Another application is then to take this digitized human, put it on a laser beam, and shoot it throughout the universe at the speed of light. I call this laser porting. So you digitize the human, so all the responses of the human are on a digital signal. You put it on a laser beam and shoot it to the moon. In 1 second, your digital brain is on the moon. In 20 minutes, you're on Mars. And in 4 years, you're on Alpha Centauri, the nearest star. And so what do you do when you're on the moon? On the moon, you download your digital information that codes who you are onto an avatar. And the avatar then can roam the moon and not have to suffer from weightlessness, cosmic rays, accidents, loss of oxygen. No, you are an avatar controlling all the movements on the moon. In other words, you can explore the galaxy this way. At the speed of light, the fastest known velocity in the universe, your digital brain waves and information about your brain and thinking can be shot throughout the universe. Now, this is all well within the laws of physics, and this is something that could easily be done within the next 50 to 100 years. However, I'll stick my neck out. I think this already exists.
Really?
I think that aliens in outer space don't use rocket ships. They don't use that rocket ships because they crash, they have problems with gamma rays, radiation, food, whatever. They've digitized themselves, placed their consciousness on a laser beam, and there's a laser highway. A laser highway that could be right next to the Earth, for all we know, carrying the digitized souls of civilizations, and we're totally clueless. We're so stupid, we don't even know that that's how the aliens move from place to place.
What other options are there? I mean, isn't there an option of, with a lack of better words, folding space-time and generating enough power where you can move from one point to another point almost instantaneously?
Yeah, there are two ways to do that. First of all, in 1935, Einstein, with his student Nathan Rosen, wrote a paper about wormholes. So a black hole is like a funnel. Take two funnels, stick them back to back, nose to nose. That is a wormhole that connects one funnel universe to another funnel universe. So I have two universes connected by a gateway, which is called the Einstein-Rosen bridge, otherwise known as a wormhole. That's one way to do it. The second way to do it was done by Michael Bier, a friend of mine, who was watching Star Trek one day and noticed how the Enterprise zapped across space by contracting the space in front of you and expanding the space behind you so that you do not go to the stars come to you. So think of walking across a carpet. You can walk across the carpet, which is the long way, or you can contract and compress the carpet in front of you, expand the carpet behind you, and then simply hop over to the other side of the carpet. That is called the Alcubierre drive. Now, then the next question is, what's the catch? There's always a catch someplace, right? Otherwise, we'd be zapping across the universe today. And that is energy. You would probably have to have energy comparable to that of a black hole. In other words, a Type 3 civilization would have the power, perhaps, to utilize wormholes or compressed space to go across galactic distances. This, of course, is science fiction, but it's well within the known laws of physics that wormholes and Alcubierre drives that are possible within the laws of physics.
What kind of an energy source could at least theoretically be used to generate that kind of power?
Well, in Star Trek, of course, they talk about the dilithium crystals.
Yeah.
Of course, there's no such thing as dilithium crystals, but there is something that can energize this machine, and that's called negative energy. Now, energy, as we know, is positive, but there is a situation where energy can become negative, and that's called the Casimir effect, which is actually measurable. We've actually measured in the laboratory. The Casimir effect is negative energy, and that's the fuel for a wormhole. Wormholes are stabilized by negative energy. In fact, it was Stephen Hawking who actually created a theorem using Einstein's equations to show that all possible wormholes, all of them, are based on negative energy. That's Hawking's theorem. Well, he proved that mathematically, which means that if you have enough negative energy, then in principle, you could rocket to the stars.
And you could rock to the stars pretty quickly.
Oh, instantly.
Instantly.
Right.
So if we're talking about a civilization that is 100,000 or 1,000,000 years
Type
more
3,
advanced.
right.
Yeah, that's what we're possibly looking at.
That's right.
So when you have these encounters like they had with that tic-tac shaped object that went from, I believe it was 60,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet above sea level in,
Seconds.
less. Yeah. So when you're talking about that kind of speed, possibly that's what you're looking at.
That's right. We're talking about them reaching us through a method that is far beyond chemical rockets. Chemical rockets, as I said, take 70,000 years to reach us from the nearby stars. While this is a huge if you could harness the power of Einstein's wormholes or Alcubierre's drive, then you could do this almost instantly. But you would need negative energy on a fantastic scale, stellar scale. In other words, you're basically type 3. So if you are a type 3 civilization, then you do have access to the Planck energy, which is the energy of a black hole.
It's way more fascinating when someone like you talks about it versus some fucking random kook. You know, that's what makes me incredibly interested, is just your credibility and the fact that this is not, you don't have a history of seeing wacky shit that other people don't see.
No, just this once.
But it's on video, and that there's other ones as well. It's really strange. And I've seen people try to explain it away, and what I don't like about when they explain it away or attempt to explain it away is that they're trying really hard. They're not going, who knows what this fucking thing is? They're not looking at it like cleanly. They're looking at it like a quote-unquote skeptic. I don't like the idea of being a skeptic. Not that I don't think you should be skeptical of certain things. I certainly think you should be. But there's a lot of people that brand themselves as skeptics. And I think it's a lazy way to look at things. I really do. Because I think you're just looking for the holes in things without looking at it objectively. If you wanted to be a scientist, if you wanted to be someone who is a fan of science, then you have to look at it as a thing. Like, look at this information and let's study this without any bias, any preconceived notions. I don't think they're doing that. They're looking at it and they're trying to find a way where they can justify that it's fake. And they're just doing all sorts of mental gymnastics to try to make it fake. That video that you show where that thing slips off to the left and takes off at incredible rates of speed, that alone should freak people the fuck out.
Yeah, well, I think because people confuse all the time, like we took the video. No, it was another crew that took the video. We watched it for 5 minutes with our eyeballs, and there was 4 of us. And we all have the same story. We all saw the same stuff. We all came back and looked at each other and scratched our head and said, WTF, serious? What was that? And then what do? You move on. We never saw it again. I imagine they probably saw him on radar after that, but I think
they're probably seeing him on radar all the time. They just don't bring it to the attention of the general public.
Oh, yeah, because if you don't, for a ship, when they see something and, you go, what is that? Well, you don't have any way to go out there and look at it.
Like when you're talking about how they were informing you that they were seeing these things previous to your mission, when you're doing this exercise and they let you know that they're seeing these things, did you say, hey, how frequent is this? Is this something that happens all the time?
I didn't get into that. Ours was more of the moment of, when he's telling us, hey, for the last 2 weeks we've been tracking these things.
Right.
And we don't know what they are.
But you don't know whether or not it was just those 2 weeks, or maybe it was a year ago. There was other similar situations, or
there's other situations that have happened out there. But I would say, for this, I don't even know. One, you got to take it serious. Yeah. We have a tendency, if we don't know what it is, if we just ignore it, it'll go away. And I joke. There was an incident years. It's probably not too far off the same time frame, where I think it was like the Constellation was doing her workups before she got decommissioned. And an a Soviet Oscar-class submarine surfaced behind her, right? And then it's like, go to battle stations, World War III. How did this foreign submarine get in our area and has been monitoring our workups? That's a big deal,
right?
I said, but now we go out and we have these things that are coming at will, and there's nothing we can do about it. We don't know what they are. We have confirmed sighting by 2 aircrew, 4 of us, 2 planes, that said, look, this is not an airplane, this is not a weather balloon, this is not a blip, it has performance well beyond, and the airplanes that we were flying at the time were literally brand new Super Hornets right out of the Boeing factory. I mean, these were brand new, first Block 2 series that came out. And you go, why wasn't something done? It's like, we don't know what it is. I think it's good now, the moves that have happened over the last, 2 years since the original article came out, that now there's a new reporting for the pilots. The Navy's acknowledged, hey, these things, we don't know what they were. They're starting to take it serious because, I know there are other events that are not out, recent events where people have been called in to go, hey, I've seen this thing. So the investigation process is still going on. We we don't stop. The military doesn't stop. Even if you take funding away, we don't stop. We don't stop until we're told to stop. So, what's going on? You go, well, ATIP ended. They spent $4.5 million a year on it. I think it was $22 million over the 5 years. So you go, what are they doing since then? Well, I'm pretty sure there's still people looking at this, and there's still people that are taking this serious. I will tell you that I won't get into specifics, but there are people inside the United States government that are taking this serious. And I've been down to D.C. twice to talk to folks, behind closed doors, to go because they want to hear the story. And I've got a lot of, you got to be joking. I mean, this seriously happened, and I'm like, yeah, it did happen, and it is real. What are you doing about it?
So what kind of people are you talking to?
High-level government officials is what I'll say. And most of that is because that conversation is between me and them, and I don't want people speculating, but you can say high-level government officials I have talked to.
Well, that was always the speculation about, what would someone do if they became president? Well, the first thing I would do is I would tell everybody about the UFOs. I would ask immediately what's going on. And I always thought about it. I said, how many people actually know what's going on? And how much of the information? I mean, it's not like if they're dealing with something like this, like your experience, it seems like what you described is what is known. So it's this anomalous event where this thing defies our current understanding of technology, and then it's gone.
Yes.
And so what do you have? You don't have anything else other than that. Like, what other information does anybody have?
Well, I would say this because I've talked to Bob. We did
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, we did an event together, and I'll leave it to everyone it's up to you to believe Bob. I'll say this: Bob's a normal guy. Bob's not crazy.
He's not crazy at all.
Not at all.
That was the weirdest thing about talking to him.
But when you look at it and go, because I had asked Bob, I said what he describes in the technology when he talks about his story. I said, well, do you honestly think we could, reverse engineer it? I said, how long do you think it would take us? And his response to me was another 100 years. He goes, Dave, it was so far beyond. He goes, the stuff that he says he worked on. He's like, he was on your podcast because I watched it. Hey, there was no wires, and because I had asked him when he said you first described the ship that he got to see, he said, I used to say, they built it and then it was like wax and you'd heat it up. He goes, now I would say it was built with 3D printing because now with 3D printing we can build things literally from the ground up, and it's basically built as one, not panels, no rivets. It's just made. Right. And so when you talk about that and you go, well, it's still another 100 years. So you go, well, what if you had the technology? We still, if what Bob says is correct, we still don't understand it. And how fast would it take us to understand that? I mean, if it's driven by something that we don't even have on Earth, which is when he talks about that element, we can't create it. We can create it for a microsecond, and then it decays, and we go,
element
okay,
115.
Yeah. So I think we're still a long ways off. I'll argue with the people that go, are we really alone? I was telling Jeremy we used to go out on goggles. Out in the middle of the Pacific, there's no light pollution.
Goggles?
Night vision goggles, so we can see. Well, you go out at night, I'd be on like a tanker hop or something, just hanging out, not doing anything, driving around in circles with the autopilot on. You just turn all the lights down in the cockpit so you have no light pollution, and you just roll your head back and look up. There's billions and billions and billions of stars out there. And, I always look up because I'm like, are we alone? And I look up and go, well, if we're the only ones around, and everything I'm looking at, it's a pretty sad place. It's a pretty lonely universe. I asked my astrophysics prof that once. I said, you believe in extraterrestrial life? And she's like, of course not. And I said, well, there's billions and billions of planets. You think we're it? I mean, just the probability of it is you'd go, oh, there's probably something else out there. And I'm not crazy. I'm just opening up the possibility that we are not the only planet that has life on it.
I think people don't like to seem silly. They don't like to be foolish. And I think when people start talking about anything that's not proven or anything that's connected to a bunch of loony people that are making up stories, which UFOs certainly are.
Yes.
UFOs are connected to so many people that have made up so many stories. What was that gentleman's name from, you would know that guy. He was from another country, Billy something or another.
Oh, Billy Meyer.
Billy Meyer.
Myers, yeah.
Seems 100% full of shit.
Yeah, he's proven to have done tons of hoaxes with this, but here's the deal. Sometimes I think people have a real experience, and they're always like chasing that dragon, and they get UFO disease and the brain goes fucking berserk, right? I know that there are people that have had profound experiences and then they can't ever replicate them, so then they just start going crazy. And I don't blame them for it. But you got someone like Commander Fravor, when he saw that AAV, anomalous aerospace vehicle, his reaction was, I want to fly it. That's a pretty cool reaction. I'd like to fly it.
Yeah, imagine flying that thing.
Well, that's what I told my buddy, who was my XO at the time, Dell. I got back after all this happened. He looks at me and we're just standing in the ready room, and he goes, hey, dude. I go, what? He goes, what do you think it is? I go, I have no idea, but it was pretty freaking impressive, and I'd like to fly it.
Of course.
And he goes, yeah. I go, I mean, it was, you know, it's just like any pilot. You always want to fly the coolest thing.
Of course. Yeah, of course. You're a race car driver. You want to drive the fastest car.
That's it. And now you look at it and go, well, that's something we don't have.
Yeah.
This idea that, you know, maybe we're not alone, that some of these other stars have planets that are maybe technologically advanced. So the next thing people say, and, you know, new eras are going to say, well, they're not coming here because the distance is so vast. Hold the fuck up. From the very beginning, when Bob Lazar came forward and talked about field propulsion, gravity propulsion, distance becomes completely irrelevant. So if we believe, and the radars are right, and Commander Fravor saw this thing moving like a ping pong ball in a glass of water, it's gravity propelled, that's why you can make those maneuvers without exploding, okay? Then distance becomes completely irrelevant for travel. You're literally warping time and space. You're falling into place.
Well, it's like the idea of showing someone a video on your phone long before video was ever invented. People would be like, what are you talking about? Like, before photography was invented, which is shockingly recent, right? You had to draw pictures of things you saw. Just like those people that drew or painted those images of those men and whatever those things were with Christ in the background. The idea that we could understand what some insanely impressive technology from a planet that is nowhere near us could manifest. It's nuts.
Yeah, Bob Lazar talks a lot about this. Remember, he's a young guy, right? In 1989, he gets shown something, and all of a sudden he's trying to interpret it through 1989 technology. So he said it looks like it was injection molded because that's what he had. And then
Right.
I sent him this thing about nanotechnology and, you know, working towards an atomic printer. He's like, dude, that makes a lot more sense. So he has to view it through where he saw it in 1989. However, I will say this, it is my knowledge that we understand exactly how these craft work. Our one limiting factor is our material science. We can't replicate, not the fuel source itself is another.
When you say we know exactly how they work.
Yeah,
what do you
it
mean?
doesn't break our laws of physics. This concept of amplification of gravity, this concept of gravity propulsion, we understand how things can move from point A to point B almost instantaneously. Our physics doesn't disallow it, but our material science and the fuel to create that machine that we have machines from other places. So
What do you mean?
Well, Bob Lazar, whether you believe him or not, there was a program. I have other witnesses that I will be bringing forward about S4, where he worked. We have craft.
You have other witnesses that worked with alongside
No, people
Bob?
that corroborate Bob's account in that they saw him get on and off the red and whites, the Janet flights that come on.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that went to Papoose Lake and was stopped by non-military guards at that time, people that were aware of Site 4 and ET exploitation projects. One is an SR-71 pilot that I've been talking with for a couple years. So these people are coming forward now, and it's like I'm sick and tired of doing it, these little nitpicky things about Bob. Okay, there was a program. There was a back engineering program. They've admitted there are materials. So this is like the metamaterials you heard about in the New York Times, all that. We have materials associated with UFOs that are interesting.
What is that? What are you talking about?
So this was something that was launched in the first New York Times article, I believe in December of 2017, that there is studies being done right now on materials associated with UFOs, right? So actual metals that have come off of, you could say, crashes or
Now, who is that explained that there was something, they were with Eric Weinstein, that was explaining that there was someone who reportedly has something along those lines?
Jacques Vallée has 17 samples.
17 samples. How
Yeah.
does one guy get 17 samples?
Well, he's Jacques fucking Vallée, right? So he's the guy first ever for the United States military created a computer program for for the study of UFOs for Project Blue Book. So he's an old school guy. They modeled him after in the Close Encounters movie. It's modeled after Jacques Vallée, the French guy. So he's kind of like been involved with this. He's had more access to government databases than any of us. He went around, collected samples from known, crashes or like when things will come off.
And what's the conclusion?
Well, they're studying them right now. There was just something on Fox about it. They're studying some of these materials and what they will find, because the ones they're talking about, I actually took to New Mexico and had 5 scientists study it about 5 years ago. I got my hands on it, got to study it. The famous parts they're talking about now. It's layered. And the way it's layered is what they're trying to see if it's anomalous elementally, or the way that the elements are bound together, and also the atomic level of layering is what's interesting. We'll find out if it's interesting.
Explain what you're talking about. What is this thing that you saw?
Okay, well, there are a lot of different samples, but when you get a sample of something and you can see...
How big are these samples?
The ones that I looked at,
yes.
They ranged from about this size down...
audio.
They ranged from the size
of an orange?
Yeah, size of an orange to the size of a quarter. These are materials, right?
And are they materials from a crash?
So that's allegedly, or there's a known crash. This is in the public domain rather than government controlled. So what I was looking at, or having the scientists look at, is isotopically and elementally. What are the elements that are in this? Are they engineered?
And what's the conclusion?
Well, I'm not. I'm going to leave it to the people that are doing it now, who have much better machines than I had access to.
Do you know any cliff notes?
Yeah, they from what I understand, there's atomic layering. There are levels of, like we do with graphene. We lay down these layers that are basically oriented at a certain degree. That's how you get a superconductor or something like that. If you take a piece of graphene and it's highly machined, so doesn't deviate from that atomic layering, you can push it right through ice like a hot knife through butter. It's the weirdest feeling in the world, because you just take this piece of what feels like graphene and it just goes right through butter, because it's a superconductor, and the heat from your hand melts the ice. So that is a metamaterial. It doesn't occur naturally. Humans created it, and it has special properties because of the way it's atomically layered. So if these materials are from somewhere else, then we suspect that they're going to be highly machined, that they're going to be created for special use. So my whole point is, our material science has not caught up with the physics that we understand for these field propulsion systems. I'm just telling you, believe me or not, but you'll hear more about it, that our material science in 1989 and today is our limiting factor. And as our material science gets better as humans, we know how these things work. Now, the fuel source, that's a whole nother conversation. But as far as creating these machines, that's what we're trying to do. That's why there is secrecy. We're trying to exploit the technology, because whoever exploits it first wins. It's a game changer. We don't want Russia to do it. We don't want China to do it. If we had a non-reactionary propulsion system, the world would look different instantaneously.